Thank you for listening. I am Dr. Raquel Lea, your host, and our sponsor for the next 9 episodes. And we're at episode 8. I had to go back and check. 8 of 9 is the BGC Series, Breaking Generational Curses, When Child Protective Services Takes Your Children. And you can find that series at sidfund.org. That's CIDFUND.org. So, with today's diary, I talked a little bit about acknowledging where you were and good therapy. There's some things that I did wrong, that I had no cognizant ability and no awareness that I was doing things wrong at that time. And with the information that I have now, would I have done some things different? Sure, who wouldn't? Children and youth don't understand that. And when I say youth, I mean 27 and under. They don't understand that you would have made different decisions had you had those tools. So the person now that's in charge of your recovery is yourself. You have to begin to reconcile and be able to verbalize some things. My father and my stepmom, excuse me, I don't have tea this morning, have a way of verbalizing things that I don't think that 10 years ago they would have been open to those conversations. So what I'm saying to you is begin that process now instead of waiting for your golden years to appear and being remorseful and have a lot of loss for what you've lost. You have to go back to the interaction therapy and how you want to communicate with your children. The disruptive behavior, we have to limit it. There's a reason to have disruptive behavior if you fear for your life and yourself. But that level of fear is usually not in the comfort of our in-laws or children. And then there's an approach to good therapy where we begin to appreciate ourselves and in the environment and the alone time we have. And sometimes there is a goodness in not speaking to our children because everybody can go to their own corners and reflect. And you definitely want to begin to do that. And there's a level of acknowledgement during reflection and saying, well, yeah, I can see how I may have done that. Don't then take it back because you're mad. Be careful that hate words don't get in. This is a very texty age. I mean, this is a season of text. Just like there was the season of the ice age, this is a season of the text age. Don't do it. Don't text with someone that you're angry with. They may never erase that text, but keep it for the rest of your life. I think that's too strong of a time period and a weapon for you to say something haphazard in a text. Case in point, I had a client in the latter years text me something that she said, something that she had heard. And I responded, and I said, well, no, this, and do some research on that, and do some research on this and that. And she thought that my advice was the worst advice in the world. She did. She thought my advice was the worst advice. And she said, I don't like your approach to anything. I told her, I'll tell you what, let's meet. And so she said some things to me. I said some things to her, and that was it. Recently, and when I say recently, I mean within the last 2 years, she found me in my LinkedIn space and wanted to link in with me. She didn't say anything. She didn't offer a message. Hey, let's communicate. But she wanted to link in with me. And I paused. And I thought about it for about 3 months because of the text. Not so much as the conversation when we were in person. Remember I told you that this is also an age of anonymity. People think that there's no consequence for what they say and what they write down. With using in messaging, texting, Facebooking, video streaming, they think that there's not a consequence for that. And I didn't accept her friendship or her into my network. What I did do is I kind of scrolled her page and I messaged her and I said, well, happy birthday. Her birthday came up. A little while later, something happened, and she got a new job, and I sent her, hey, congratulations on your new job, and she responded to that. And I noticed that she sent me a second and third message requests to enter my network after I had declined. So what I'm saying to you is that sometimes texting can be more hazardous than anything because people have the opportunity to reread it, to measure your tone. And then later when you grow, like my parents, and you're willing to have some conversations that 10 years ago you weren't willing to have, people go back and they've cultivated those texts, and they've thought about it, and they base some judgments based on those texts. And so now all of the acknowledgement and reflection and good therapy and disruptive behavior watching and interactions that you've been doing to grow, they may not be in your space. Why? They're reading the same text. So be cognizant of how we communicate with our children. Be cognizant of the approaches that we take and the flow and the vibes that we've sent out. This was a little lengthy, so I'm your host. Thank you for listening in. You're listening to Healthy Families First.
So this is where our journey must end. And saying good evening and goodbye to you today does not mean that you don't get another opportunity to impact your generations, legislation, and effective change in your kinship and relationship with your child or your children. And as always, the vision of our broadcast is incomplex, that you consider, catch, check out, and cradle simple approaches to parenting and communication. And we are here to help support. And in kind, your generosity helps parents liberties and freedoms from constraint to guide and parent their children and grandchildren in safe and healthy places. Won't you become a patron today? Visit our supporters page at patreon.com/healthyfamiliesfirst. As a nonprofit doing the most good, the Breaking Generational Curses series and Healthy Families First is promoting healthy parent-child relationships when there is a kinship split. No communication, no awareness, no occasional meetings, no nothing. And our intent is an information hub for parents to approach healing and recovery in safe spaces. Our broadcast will be featured in 47 countries and all USA podcast panels. Stay tuned for an open call to beta testers, listeners, sign-ups, and support. And again, thank you for listening. Visit CIDFUND.org. That's sidfund.org.